Well, hello, everyone. Good to have you guys here. I'm happy to moderate our first debate. It's been almost 10 years now that there was a whole lot of buzz about the blockchain revolution. But so far, at least if you read general media, the big rollout hasn't happened just yet. So let's explore what's going on beneath the surface. Where is blockchain already in use? Where does it still have potential? And where was the technology simply overrated? And I'm looking forward to discussing this with the following guests. We have, to my left, Dan Danay, head of blockchain at Checkpoint company, providing cybersecurity solutions for enterprises and governments around the world. And you have recently announced a partnership with Cardano. So welcome, good to have you here.
Thank you.
Right beside you is Pankhuri Bansal, founder and blockchain expert at Blockom, a consulting company specialized on the implementation of technologies like AI, blockchain, and the Internet of Things. You also serve as a blockchain expert for the UN, so you have a very broad and general view. Good to have you here, Pankhuri.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
And next to you is Hans Knoth, head of planning and projects and regulatory affairs at the Hamburger Volksbank. And you, and I'm really impressed with that, own a PhD in physics with focus on computational physics and quantum optics, a techie at heart, if you could say so.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. And last but not least, we have Florian Krueger-Herbert, Head of Innovation and Venture Building, EMA, at Johnson & Johnson Innovative Medicine. Your company focuses on medication for complex diseases such as cancer, autoimmune diseases, and Alzheimer's. Good to have all of you here. And let me start with you, Florian. Blockchain has been marked as a silver bullet for supply chain transparency, fraud protection, traceability, etc. But we seem to be kind of stuck in pilots. So why is that so? And, well, where is it already in use?
Yeah, good question. And again, thank you very much for having me. And are they going to kill me if I move it? Because everyone always needs to lean back when looking at me.
You can do that.
Look, and I'm feeling a little bit like that exotic animal here, right? Coming from healthcare, and I'm not sure how many healthcare other folks are in the room. Oh, one more. Okay, cool. We need to meet for networking. But as you said in the beginning, there was this hype like 10 years ago, right? Everyone was speaking about blockchain, and yes, you also have the cryptocurrency, et cetera, et cetera. And when you look at healthcare overall, I think it's one of the topics that has been not looked at enough in the past couple of years, and I come to that in a second, what it also means for J&J. But if you look at my industry peers in healthcare, for many of them, blockchain is like this safe, tamper-proofed, trusted record that everyone can trust, right, from manufacturer to patients. And then if you look around the industry in pharmaceuticals, yes, we mainly used it for track and trace, making sure that you don't have any counterfeit products coming into the market. And then from a J&J level, like a couple of years ago, we also did a proof of concept where we looked into how can we collect more transparent and more securely real-world health data of patients, right? So we took patient prescriptions, we took the usage data, and we tried to figure out a way how can we actually use the data in order to make it not fakeable, but also in order to prove the authenticity, right? And we came pretty fast to the conclusion, because we looked at it from a centralized model approach, that it's very unsustainable for one large corporate only to look at it, because you have all those different players in the healthcare ecosystem, which are the regulators, the payers, the pharmacies, the patients, the hospitals, all
and
that
all
stuff.
use different data systems, I believe, so it makes it hard to combine.
everyone always speaks about interoperability, right? So it's super difficult to get over those barriers, and I think that's still the thing why it really hasn't taken off yet. And you mentioned AI. There you have a super consumerization of the technology. With ChatGPT, everyone can use it. Blockchain is more focused on the infrastructure, right? Without speaking too long, I think there are some super cool use cases moving into the future. I'm the guy who wipe coded with Fabian in the hackathon and tried a few things. Yeah, data privacy, the collaboration barriers with too many players, all those things have been a hurdle in the past couple of years with my
So let's dive into some use cases. Do you have some at Johnson & Johnson Medical already?
The one, for example, was that real-world data collection example, right? Which we then paused because it was a couple of years ago, as I said. And the technology that was existing was not enterprise-ready yet, right? So it was just not sustainable for us as an organization.
Okay, and then now you have regulators, you've already talked about that, and you have the US Drug Supply Chain Security Act that requires an electronic system to trace prescriptive drugs at the package level. So could blockchain be it could be one way to do that, but there must be other ways because it's still not being used at a larger scale. So which are the ways that are maybe easier then?
Yeah, Look, I think it depends on how the regulators are moving as well, right? Because you can also not create a system in healthcare that is completely standalone and bypassing all the other systems that you already have in healthcare, right? It needs to go hand in hand. If you now look at the European Health Data Space Act, right, that's potentially something where the regulators could move into the direction of blockchain, right? Because then you have those tamper-proof log audits and all that kind of stuff. But it needs to go hand in hand. So, yeah.
So as long as your technology openly moving?
If you look at blockchain, yes, there are several use cases, but it's not always about the technology only, right? So you look at the use case first, you look at the value proposition, what kind of problems is it going to solve for the parties? Will it be an only blockchain thing? Most likely not, but could blockchain be part of it? Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you. Hans, in your LinkedIn profile, you write, "My unique ability lies in transforming strategies into actionable, impactful results." And where are those impactful results as far as blockchain in the banking industry is concerned?
We have to discern there are several areas of banking. So right now I'm working for a regional cooperative bank, and looking at our IT provider, they basically, I just looked it up these days, they basically mention blockchain as one of the challenges besides platform business, etc. Something you need to look at in the future.
Maybe for the audience to make understandable, cooperative banks, it's a very German thing, that are very small cooperatives that can be lender-wide. We have 16 lender, and they serve small and medium-sized enterprises as well as individual clients.
And
you say they just mention blockchain among many other.
We're not talking about cryptocurrencies, that's a different topic, but really you have to look at it. There is no need. Why is there no need? Because you have trust already in the system. The banks have been around for a very long time. It is highly regulated and supervised. And you have also the German thing, or at the European level, the Einlagensicherungsfonds. So even if a bank goes bust, mostly for retail at least, your money is safe. So you have a system with high trust and high monitoring and checks and balances all over the place. And that's what blockchain is there for, to instill trust. So I was very fortunate in the other sector, when you go into the private banking sector, and you have more things like trade finance. That's a thing where blockchain is really a good use case, because you have business with companies that you don't know. So how can I be sure that my wares really come where they're supposed to go? How am I really sure that they get paid and everything? And their smart contracts based on blockchain are really helpful. And I was very fortunate, like 10 years ago, there was this pressure, we have to do something with blockchain. Don't you remember that? We have to do something with AI. We have to do something with big data. We have to do something with IoT. Always this first wave where you want to jump onto the wave. I was working for UniCredit Germany, and the platform WeTrade was built where smart contracts were implemented for trade finance, but otherwise not. I don't see many use cases.
But why did Hamburger Volksbank get you, after all, people? I mean, a blockchain expert and a techie also. So what can you do within that ecosystem now?
Well, not only blockchain expert. Actually, there is a startup that the Volksbank financed, but it's just seed financing. And I'm in the board of that too.
It's Reef Data, right?
Reef Data. The basic idea behind it is data sovereignty. So I will simplify it. The team will kill me for it. Give us the data that Amazon, Google, and co have anyway. Give it to us. We'll resell it for purposes that you allow us, and the money that is paid will get back to you. One use case, yeah? But very simplified.
Sounds wonderful.
Why should you trust us?
Because you're a German-regulated cooperative bank that is in...
No, it's not the bank doing it. It's a startup. It's completely apart from the bank.
It's not
we just
even
got the money
owned.
from the bank.
I thought you were owned by the bank
No.
in parts.
Not really. The cooperative, not. It's a separate cooperative. So you could say, when you're in Germany and you know cooperative banks, you could say, oh, I trust them because they're a cooperative. I know every member
But
has
they don't
one
have a
vote.
banking license, I don't
No,
believe.
we don't
So
have
no
a banking
regulation.
license, nothing. It's completely apart. No, we want to use blockchain technology to secure the whole data money supply chain. So really concretely, you give us the data, and we're looking at Iagon from Cardano to store the data in the secure places with a key behind it.
And I would get a passport kind of thing then.
You have the key,
Okay.
and you could give the key for a purpose. We would then allow the company to use the data for that purpose, and you could see it in your blockchain that the company has used it for that purpose and only that purpose. So you can be sure the data is only used for what I allowed it to do. So then they pay money. How do I know I get my fair share? Reef could be an answer. We're looking into that right now. Reef is also a Cardano product that allows auditing of money trails, for example. So they pay us data for it, let's say 200 euros for something, and you get like €1.30. Is that my fair share? I can look into the blockchain and really audit it myself.
Sounds really interesting, but just explain to me what's in for Hamburger Volksbank, because that's your main employer, right? You do this at the side, the self-employed
at the side,
startup?
yeah. But look at it this way: we're a cooperative bank, yeah. On the surface, you think we're handling money. Well, that's not true. That hasn't been true for a long time. Oversimplification too. We're working with data. We're expert at securely working with data, exchanging data. So there, this idea came up with other people in the cooperative area too. Couldn't we do something in the modern world? A data cooperative.
That monetizes the data.
That one use case monetizes the data, but for the members and customers, and not for the big tech companies.
Interesting. It's an interesting model. I think we should look into it more for journalism as well. We need our data monetized better. That is for sure. Pankhuri, I want to get you into the debate. You have a broad overview over many sectors, and you look into different new techs also. What do you think the buzz right now is mostly about? Is it like going away from blockchain into AI, or do you think it's equally still evolving?
Well, thanks for having me here. I think to answer this question, it's definitely a convergence of the two right now, or any other technology at this point. I don't think blockchain can exist in silos and AI can exist in silos, because at the fundamental layer, what blockchain essentially does is it records the data in a transparent, secure manner. But then what do you do with that data once you have that data, right? You need data capabilities, you need AI to kind of make sense of that data. So what's happening is that at the layer base, you need blockchain. So even, like when I worked at JP Morgan at Onyx, now Kinesis, we were looking at use cases like cross-border settlements and making financial system transparent and faster. So of course, you're using a blockchain such as Quorum, for example. JP Morgan has its own blockchain Quorum at that point. So we had that, we had JP Coin on top of it to kind of make those transactions faster. So that's the fundamental of blockchain that we have today. I mean, yes, cryptocurrency is the most widely used case, but I think after institutional adoption, we are seeing that there is not just interest from the players, but also from the regulators. And after Mika and Genus, I think it's fair to say that we are reaching that level of maturity in terms of blockchain adoption as well, mainly in the financial sector right now, but it is happening. And in terms of AI, we are looking at AI from the ethical point of view. Yes, you have blockchain at the layer, but then you need AI for compliance, for surveillance. You need to understand, you need to be able to flag any anomaly or any kind of a sanctioned transaction, for example. So you need AI on top of it, even in like the financial sector. And the kind of use cases that we're working on within the UN, it's more about making that base infrastructure more robust. So we're working on standardizations and frameworks so that it becomes easier to adopt both AI and blockchain better. We have standards such as ISO TC 307 that I'm working with the ISO and UN in collaboration. So we make it easier to kind of have different networks come together and interoperate. And, for example, we have ISO 222 also right now for data standards. It's become a mandate in the financial industry. So it's just very important to have these kind of frameworks and interoperability standards.
And maybe help me again to understand how AI and blockchain go together. So blockchain you use and you have a lot of interactions and transactions, and then you put AI behind it to look into security issues, to look into like anomalies, to flag anomalies in this. Is
I would say AI is more on top of it. Blockchain is at the layer base. So you record the data on the blockchain, but then what do you do with that data? Like you have enormous amounts of big data, and then you need to like make some decisions, like business decisions for efficiency gains, for transparency, as he was mentioning in the trade supply chain as well. Trade finance is a very big use case and a promising use case for the blockchain industry. Of course, we're still at most of the pilot levels, but it's still there. So what happens is once you have the data, you kind of make sense of that data for decision making at the corporate level, for efficiency gains, for transparency gains, to understand, as I said, for compliance issues, for your KYC, AML, and things like that. So that even like when regulators are sort of coming into play to make those decisions to have more blockchain acts such as the Genius Act or the Mika Act, you can use AI as a tool to kind of make those decisions and to make those regulations. It just makes it easier for that.
Blockchain is another river of data inflow for AI. So it could be your personal customized client data that you have, but it can also be data on the blockchain, and it's one more way to make more.
Absolutely, but because it's cryptographically hashed, it just makes the data more clean. It just makes blockchain makes the data more transparent, cleaner. So it's like you're dealing with good data set, and that's the problem these days that we have. It's like data in, data out, right? Whatever data we feed into the system is the decisions we are making, and that's the result. That's why we see so many biases in GPT models and things like that. But with blockchain, you kind of make that layer a little more transparent and corrupt-free in some sense. That's why it's important to kind of have the data on the blockchain.
Maybe we'll get to the point where it's a stamp of security, of Gütesiegel, as we say in German. I don't know the English word for it, that it's AI based on blockchain. So we have the clear and pure data backing it up. Maybe one question as to the sectors that you see that will advance the fastest on that path. Who is at the forefront for now, and which sectors do you see coming up next?
I definitely think it's going to be where the money is inflowing, right? And that's the financial sector right now, fortunately or unfortunately. And also because they have the resources, the big banks have the resources to experiment with the technology and to adapt the technology. So it is the financial sector, even though it kind of defies the purpose of whole decentralization of the technology. But I think that's where the innovation and the resources are right now. And that's also where the proven use cases are at this point, financial industry. like the DBs, the JP Morgan, for example, they are heavily experimenting with that because there's a lot of transaction involved, cross-border transactions are involved, a lot of money is involved there. So that's where I see it progressing the fastest, supported by regulations as well, because when the big money is involved, the regulators come into play. They want to make sure that the money either does not go out of the country or it's at least controlled in some form. And since the regulators are keeping an eye on it, whether it's CBDCs, stablecoins, for example, it is definitely the financial sector, whether we like it or not at this point.
Okay, well, thank you. So, Dan, you are involved in the cybersecurity aspects of also blockchain, because you have now partnered with Cardano. And when I read about the partnership, I was asking myself, why that? I mean, isn't Cardano itself as a blockchain already designed in a secure way? And why would you partner with a security company? I mean, I didn't really get it. Maybe you can help.
Okay. I'll try to explain. So, hi everyone. Thanks for having me. I lead the blockchain team in Checkpoint. For those who don't know Checkpoint, Checkpoint is a major cybersecurity vendor traded on NASDAQ. We secure most of the Fortune 500s, a lot of major financial institutions, most of the big global banks. Building on Pankhuri's comments before, I do believe in what we see is that financial institutions are now adopting blockchain and actually using it. And when these financial institutions are trying to interact with public blockchains, such as Cardano, they need a certain level of assurance in terms of cybersecurity. So we're building a blockchain firewall, and what we're trying to do is we're trying to make it easier and more secure for financial institutions, large corporates, enterprise, to interact with public blockchains such as Cardano. And
so that the data is not, like the client data is secure. That's what you secure mostly, the client data?
It's not mostly about client data, it's mostly about assets. So really, usually when you say about a blockchain, about a layer 1 that it's secure, you mean that the protocol will be doing what it's supposed to do. It wouldn't break. And that's something blockchains has been fairly good with, generally speaking. And Cardano has been exceptional in terms of its security. But really on top of it, there's an application layer attacks, an application layer security, meaning there's a lot of attacks actually on blockchains happening on the blockchain against a specific wallet or a smart contract. Now, if a bank wants to put $1 billion in assets, like they do, they're already doing, they need to secure these assets. So even if Cardano doesn't break, somebody could steal the funds. So they have to secure the funds, and that's really what we're doing. We're allowing financial institutions, enterprises to have their assets secured while interacting with the blockchain.
So it's an extra layer of security that a personal user, a private user wouldn't have. So if I put my whatever account
we would like to provide that security also for regular users. Specifically in Cardano, we're already having real-time monitoring of every transaction going through the blockchain. And when we find a malicious transaction, we flag it. And this is actually right now in public good on Cardano. So anybody who's interested, who has significant funds, could contact us, and we are opening tenets for him, and he can see a view of his assets in real time. If anything goes wrong, he'll get an alert. And the next stage would be to do prevention.
All right. So moving away maybe from Cardano and looking at all blockchains there are, how does a company that want to use blockchain, or even a private user, understand what is good and what is bad? So what is there to look out for? Maybe that's a question for you. Is it that it's like fast, maybe, and you don't have like, if many people use it at the same time, you don't have lags in there? Is it well, security, of course. What other factors would you ask people to look out
I
for?
think from an engineering perspective, you want to see that there's a fit between the infra, the technology that you want to use, and your use case. So it used to be that everybody spoke about TPS, the block size, but I think right now this is becoming less significant because of the speeds and the capacities of the L1s, which are amazing. And right now, it's more about integrations, middleware, TVL, the capacity and the environment to do business in and with. And security is a big part of it. So there are certain blockchains where you won't be able to get a certain type of security in place, and there are others where you could have top-notch security that goes across the board, not only with real-time security like we're doing, but also with custodians, with auditors. Mm-hmm. And you want to have all of these things in place to attract enterprise financial institutions to do business in, say, Cardano and not other networks.
Okay, maybe I'll open up there. Are there other aspects for the three of you that make a blockchain a good one to use, or easy to use? Other, of course, than security, which I understand is priority number one. Go ahead, whoever.
Okay, then I'll go next. Look, I think whoever the user is of the technology that you're providing or the solution, for them it doesn't matter if it's blockchain or not, right? But if I look at the healthcare space, so for example, lately, me personally, I invested into a startup that is in the AI gut microbiome sequencing solution, right? So what they do is they take your stool sample, transfer it to a lab, then the lab synthesizes it, sequences it, and then that lab provides raw data to an AI algorithm, right? So in between, you have multiple steps on how the data flows. Could, for example, I just got to know yesterday that solution, I think, Verify from Cardano, where you can actually lock certain data points. Could that be a super technology that you can use, or a solution in that entire data process flow to make sure that the raw data that came out of the lab that goes into the AI algorithm has never been edited, changed, whatever, and is authentic? Perfect. Would the patient mind that it is running on blockchain? Most likely not. Would I, as a company providing that service, care? Yes, because I make it more secure, and then I put a cybersecurity level on top of it. So I think, again, it depends on that flow of data, etc., that you do have, but there are multiple use cases in healthcare where you could use it.
And is reliability of the system, is that a question at all? I mean, are there systems that are more or less reliable for you to use?
Yes, from our viewpoint, reliability is the leading factor. The speed is not the highest thing. We really want a service to run, and to run without interruption. One of the strong points of Cardano now. So that is the main focus for us from the Reef data side. And talking about the general finance area, yes, there too. It is very important. If you see how the classical systems work with all the backups and all the security behind it, reliability is on the forefront. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, regarding use cases, I would like to add, we've mentioned it several times, we don't want to implement blockchain. Blockchain is something that you use when you have certain problems. And I think for me, the main factor to use blockchain would be whenever I know I need to build trust that is not there yet. Then there is something like, okay, if I hear that word, then I look at blockchain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think along with reliability, it's the integration with the existing systems that's very important. Because yes, like of course, reliability is important, but like how feasible it is to kind of change your existing systems to integrate blockchain or any other technology, like how convenient it is. If it's like you have to revamp the entire system and nobody knows what's happening within the organization, it just becomes very difficult to adopt any technology. So hence the reliability goes, down the drain. So I think along with that, if you're able to kind of build on top of the legacy systems or integrate in some way, I think it just becomes easier to adopt the technology. And in terms of use cases, I think what we're also seeing a lot is in the decarbonization aspect of things as well. There's a lot of like ESG interest from the governments and becoming a mandate from the governments. So I think that's one of the use cases, even like when I'm working with the UN use cases, we see that there are more questions around, can we use blockchain for the ESG perspective to meet like the SDG goals, for example, how we can use that technology in combination with AI, for example. So I think that's also becoming a very big use case, and I believe it's going to be even bigger and bigger in times to come as everyone becomes more conscious in terms of, especially the customers become more conscious in terms of their own consumption and decision making. So it's going to be driven from the customer perspective, I feel, and that's where this use case is going to go up and up even more.
And what about the energy efficiency of the blockchain itself? Is that a criterion by which to pick? Are there blockchains and providers that work more or less energy efficient? And if so, why, if anybody can tell the technology behind that? Because are they not as long and then more efficient? And is that a criterion at all, energy efficiency?
I think it definitely is a criteria. That's why even Ethereum kind of moved from different consensus mechanisms. And especially from the ESG perspective, it's going to become even more important because when you are trying to prove your carbon credits or claim your carbon credits, you have to talk about your network, you have to talk about which blockchain you're using, how energy efficient it is, how much consumption it is taking up to kind of validate those transactions, for example. So it is going to be important. Maybe you can add more on that perspective from the security point of view as well.
Then, like, about the energy efficiency of a blockchain, and why do they differ at all? I'm not an expert.
The fundamental security mechanisms are different in terms of validating the blocks.
So less secure is more energy efficient?
It's not less, it's different systems. Cardano has been a very bold pioneer of what's called the proof of stake, which is a very unique way to verify the blocks. In contrast with a system called proof of work, which has been the standard and is still the standard on Bitcoin. So Cardano is at the forefront of that as well. We are spending some little extra energy on validating the transactions from the security side.
Okay. But I still don't get, why are there blockchains that are less or more efficient? What makes it
less or more efficient?
Yes.
I think fundamentally the cryptography, the way you validate the transaction is the most significant part.
Okay.
In Bitcoin, you need a type of scarcity to participate in the consensus. So in Bitcoin, this scarcity comes from the energy. You invest energy, and then you get a chance to write the next block with certain chance. But in proof of stake, it's different. You don't invest energy. You either usually you put a financial stake in place, and then there's like a lottery, which is much more efficient in terms of energy consumption.
Okay, and that's maybe the new thing. Is that where other chains are involving too?
That was a new thing that I think a lot of chains were really afraid to implement, and Cardano was a big pioneer in that aspect as well.
And maybe let's explore on the regulatory aspects a little bit. I mean, how does regulation play in that? And what do you think are the risks and the chances of the latest regulation that we see from the US? I think Pankhuri has already, touched upon the latest regulation. Is there a risk to it as well?
I think more than the risk, it's the complication of the Genius Act. Like, even though it makes it easier to kind of now, operate in terms of using blockchain for financial transactions, but it's also more at the state level, and it's ultimately the state which decides what they want to do, how they want to kind of adhere to the compliances. Unlike the MiCA Act, which is like all the 27 countries within the EU kind of follow a similar mandate. So it becomes companies operating within the EU to make decisions faster. But with the Genius Act, I think it complicates it a little further because, states can take their independent decisions. So there can be like favoritism in terms of jurisdiction where the companies want to operate or put their head offices and things like that. So I just feel like there's a lot of work that needs to be done with the Genius Act for it to, make it easier for businesses to operate within the US as opposed to EU. And then once you get out of the US and you kind of transact with companies within the EU or Asia, how does that interplay work? That's very important, in my opinion, because majority of the crypto transactions are emerging from emerging markets and not, the developed world. Like most of the users right now or investors right now are from the emerging markets. So, where is the level of compliance and how do you kind of make sure that those transactions are, like you're able to flag them or you're able to kind of adhere to those rules. So I think a lot needs to be simplified, in my opinion, at this point in time.
Let me ask the banker on that, because what I understood is that with the Genius Act, there is a compliance suggested that might not be kept. So I've heard economists say that there might be the markets testing currencies, like stablecoins, for example, that are not being backed up as much as they should. And that might lead to a financial crisis with the state having to bail out the private industry again with taxpayers' money. Do you see that risk? And I see Pankhuri is nodding, so at least I got that right, and I understood that right.
Absolutely, because most of these stable coins are right now backed by treasury bills, short-term treasury bills, which is, it's like essentially giving loans to the government, to the US government, and if one of the stable coins depegs for some reason, then it's like a whole financial contagion that we can see over there because of that. Because most of the backing right now is by the short-term loans for the government, right? So I definitely see a big financial threat in terms of that.
Sounds like the Genius Act isn't that genius after all.
Let's say it that way. The cooperative banks have introduced a possibility for trading cryptocurrencies, but each cooperative bank itself can decide if it wants to offer it to its customers or not. Mm-hmm. So the latest number I've seen is like 17% of the German cooperative banks have offered it. The 17? Okay, the other 83 not.
And which ones were the ones? 17% might be one big bank.
No, we're actually 624 right now, so...
yeah, but I thought the weight of maybe if Deutsche Bank was among...
no, I mean of the cooperative banks. Just the regional
of the number
cooperative
of banks, not of the business.
Of the number,
there is.
yeah.
I see.
So you see, not everybody has decided to offer that possibility to its own customers. And I think that speaks for itself.
Yeah, that's Germany, and let's see what the US do, because their customers are much more experimental, and banks might be as well.
You have to know it's a speculation.
Yeah, and I don't know if financial advisors will really advise on that as well, but that'll be interesting to see. Maybe in the last round, looking at the time, I would like your advice for the audience. I mean, if people are listening now and thinking, and people of companies are thinking about how and where could we start? We want to get into this blockchain thing. We want to help our customers make the best of it. Where do we start? And whoever wants to start with their thoughts.
Basically, I can only repeat myself. You don't look into, I want to use blockchain. You have a problem. And if you come around to that you need traceability, that you need to build trust, words like this, then you look into blockchain technology. Just like nowadays, you don't just say, I want to use AI. You need the use cases for it. First comes the use case, and then you see that you have the right tool.
Oh, thank you. Other thoughts on where to start?
No, I absolutely agree with Hans, right? And listening to the conversation about the Genius Act, I'm happy I'm in healthcare the first time in my life. It's, look, where to start? If you look at it from a tech perspective, a blockchain perspective, I think, so the beauty of my role is I get to see many different technologies, whether it's 3D bioprinting and then all the way to blockchain. And you see some new concepts popping up on those permission blockchains, which again, if you look at the concepts, then are for manufacturers, hospitals, so all the large players in that ecosystem, in order to validate the data, proof of authenticity, simplify clinical trials even. So very good concepts, but then if you look at it in detail, the patient usually is not described in it. And if you look at the healthcare system that is existing today, it's all those different entities circling next to the patient, but the patient, similar like I think this approach with Reef, what does the patient get out of it? The patient's data is almost everywhere. It's in hospitals, it's in your wearables, it's in the cloud with Apple, everywhere, right? So if I would have a suggestion where to start, yes, start with a use case, but there's another trend in healthcare, which are those patient-owned data economies, right, where you could start arguing, if you find an incentive, very simply put, imagine that your health data can work for you, right, in a trusted environment, super simple, and you actually get money for it, right? And maybe we should speak afterwards, because there was a similar concept that I saw, but for decentralized healthcare marketplaces. And you as a patient, you get the possibility to upload your biomarkers, your genetics data, your wearable data that you request from Apple and the other ones. And then you're actually getting rewarded for it, because your data sets are super high value in money, right? And by that, you're driving a completely different adoption, because finally the person that usually gives out the data for free whenever you do a clinical checkup is finally getting something for it, right? So you're changing a little bit that ecosystem. So if I would have a suggestion where to start, yes, start with a use case, but look at where is the largest population size actually, because it is not only the hospitals, the doctors, etc. At the end, it's us, the patients, and try to find a value there and then try to solve it.
Sounds like a wonderful idea for a new enterprise.
Just a quick supporting fact.
Yeah.
We've thought about this. There is an American health insurance with several million people.
Yeah.
They sell their clients' data and earn on it.
Nice.
Themselves, not for the clients?
Not
they
for
don't...
the client, themselves. It's a revenue stream.
Oh, and that has been made public, and the clients are fine with it? Or
If
they say they anonymize the data?
We're not
I
in
guess.
Europe.
Interesting. And I think it would be a win-win for patients, because on the one hand side, they will make a little bit of money out of their data, and eventually they'll get a better treatment as well, because on whatever illness they have, there's more data being combined and more help can be given, maybe.
One thing we're actually thinking about in Reef Data is that you not only have the option to monetize your data, but you can also give it for purposes.
Yes.
And one thing would be medical purposes. As you just pointed out, the data that you, today, not the Apple Watch, the data that you amass in fitness, etc., you could give it for purposes. If you remember back when, at least in Germany, for the Germans, when Corona started, the RKI had one app before the Corona app, and that was just an app that had the heart rate. Because when you have an infection, heart rate goes up. If you remember that, that was sort of the first big, at least in Germany that I know of, data donation for medical purposes. And we are thinking along those lines.
Wonderful. So happy to see what is next to come. Dan, maybe your take on where to start.
I'll say it doesn't matter where you start. The important thing is that you start. It's a revolution, and you kind of have to touch it in order to understand. When I need to compare it to something else, so people get the idea, I'm saying it's like connecting to the internet for the first time. There's a big opportunity. You have to do it. You have to do it. Then you understand the impact it could have, and you see it's big. It's already making a big impact. This year, stablecoin usage surpassed Visa and MasterCard. In the economy, there's a big war of different currencies. The USD is now trying to get a hold of the digital space with the stablecoins. It's a major, major advancement. So just get your hands dirty, get on it, to understand the different applications that it could be relevant for you.
Yeah, but that's wonderful. We're preaching to the believers here because the ones that are in this room are already, and also online, are already the ones that get their hands on things. Pankhuri, do you have a last suggestion, maybe, how to get started?
Yeah, I think you have to think from the user perspective, because blockchain itself is such a complicated word for people. Like they just run away when you say blockchain. They say, I don't even know B of blockchain, don't talk to me about it. So I think you have to think from the user experience perspective. How easy are you making their lives, for them to kind of adapt your platform or to use your platform? If it's helping you do that, if it's helping you, achieve user adoptability, then I think go for it, but also think about your ROI. Don't just dive into it because everyone is using it, it's the buzzword. I think from your ROI perspective, what is the return that you're gonna get, let's say in the next 1 year to 2 years, have your milestones set, and start from a small pilot is what I would say. Give yourself 6 months, see what you're able to achieve, measure it against your KPIs, but have your targets ready. Don't just keep putting all your resources into it, because the technology is also evolving at this point in time, and you need to kind of plug and play and do your pilots before you fully dive into it. See if you're getting any results out of it at the end of the day also or not. And if not, just probably, try to integrate it with other technologies. Don't just stick to blockchain. Think what could be the better technology to achieve what you're trying to achieve. So in a nutshell, yeah, don't just think of blockchain as the solution. As he was rightly saying that it's just a tool to kind of help you get better decision making, but don't just use it because everyone is using it for sure. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for all of you for your input. I think we have a lot of food for thought now, and a lot of diving into it and trying, and just get the use cases ready. Don't invest all of it, put all eggs in one basket. I hear that. But I see one really good use case in the health industry that we might always be waiting for. So thanks for participating, and thank you for the panel.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.